And we are recording. All right, so we're going to look at our first kind of way of bridging distance in a fight, because obviously you don't want to stand at extension distance of your opponent, which 9 times out of 10 will also mean that they won't be in your extension distance. Like, you won't be able to just reach out and cut them because you don't want them to be able to do that to you. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to not get that close to them, which means that you need a way to rapidly come forward or to kind of cheat distance. So this first method is fairly simple. This wasn't Andre. I got this from one of the Defense Dans LaRue manuals, but I read it years and years and years ago and couldn't find it since. And all you do is squat. So to show you that from the side, I just go squat. And the reason this works is my arm basically exists on an arc. So when my arm is extended out straight, it has the most reach. The problem is to attack my opponent's knife hand, because if someone stands like this with their knife fully extended, it's pretty easy to attack. So what most people do is they keep their hand withdrawn, and the fact that it's lower and further back means that they can kind of keep it a bit out of harm's way. So if I can make full reach here, but going down, hopefully you can all see the wall. I lose, even just a little bit of distance. The knife is technically out of distance, but I can extend my reach by however much, by extending and then dropping, if that makes sense. So I'm basically putting my arm at maximum extension and then lowering it down by squatting. That's the motion. So like everything in knife fighting, the order of this is quite important. I want to start my extension first and then drop. In fact, I probably want to get to about this far. So I've extended, maybe not quite halfway, maybe about a third of the way. And then I want to start my drop. The way I drop, the way you drop, don't think of squatting, don't think of pulling yourself down, because if you think squat, you'll lower yourself slowly. What you think of is taking your feet away. So what I think is I'm basically trying to fling my feet out of my way and then letting my body catch me, because we as primates have a natural aversion to falling out of trees, and that's extended to not wanting to fall on our ass in front of a Zoom seminar and embarrass ourselves. So all I do is extend, take my feet away. And the jerkiness, and you can actually use the jerkiness of stopping yourself to finish the cut and to get a bit of extra impetus in the cut. So to practice that, extend about a third out, drop. When I call drop, like finish your extension and whip. All right, and back up. In fact, so the getting back up is about as important as getting down there, because when you're down and extended, you're vulnerable. So we're going to focus on getting back up or bouncing back as well. So from here, extend, 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 drop, bounce. Extend, drop, bounce. Extend, drop, bounce. Just make sure. Line. Extend, drop, bounce. Extend, drop, bounce. Extend, drop, bounce. And once more for luck. Extending, drop, and bounce. All right. So now we're going to try this as one movement. And for reference, there are other ways to move to get away when you've dropped down, particularly if you've got quite a good squat, which I don't. But there are people who will drop all the way down and then pivot away, or even drop all the way down and then do an understop thrust and stuff like that. Like, they'll move differently, but we're just going to work on bouncing back up. So I'm just going to call cut, and I want you to do the whole thing in one motion. So hopefully everyone is ready. And cut, 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 and cut. Right. So that was kind of energetic, so I hope you're not all too tired. Also, I think I might have upset my dogs, which has meant that Right, so I've upset my dogs and dropped my phone. Okay, oh, and Tess has a comment. I don't understand the losing feet part about this. So just to reply to Tess's comment, after my dog just finished losing their shit. So the way I describe it is you don't think about squatting, you don't think about going down. What you think about is taking your feet away. Like, you know, it's kind of, I know, it's a cue I've always felt really helpful is you try and imagine you're taking your feet out from under you or away from under you. Like, I might be able to show this. Hopefully the dog's not distracting. So if I was going to take my front foot away, all I do is lift it up like that. If I was going to take my back foot away, all I do is lift it up like that. And so all I'm trying to do is basically do both those movements at the same time. And I find that's a really, really useful cue because it's a much more relaxed movement. The other thing that sort of helps people visualize is it gets them to basically jump without jumping. If you tell someone to jump, they'll jump upwards and then down. Yeah, it's a jump, a small one. Basically, but I find every time I tell someone to jump, they jump up and then come crashing down, which is not a very non-telegraphic way to move. Whereas if I tell people just take their feet away, they basically jump without going upwards. That makes sense. All right, so are there any other comments, questions, compliments, condemnations? So Kirok is like, my knees? Yeah. Sorry about that. Kirok says, your dogs are spooking my cat. Well, I kind of, at least your cat's getting some social interaction via Zoom. I don't know what's wrong. I think the jumping upset them. So, you know, I'll do stuff that is much more gentle on the floor and therefore more gentle on everyone's knees. Yeah, this is kind of the downside of knife is it is very, very athletic. And, you know, it's probably not what, like, I know this sort of traditional model of martial arts where, you know, if you're skilled at the art, you can overcome athleticism. I think that is true to some degree. And although I do think that you need specific tactics to deal with someone who's super athletic as a martial artist. The thing about knife is athleticism, knife being really, really athletic and agile is always going to give a massive advantage. It's just, it is a very athletic and dynamic weapon. That's just kind of the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But, you know, there are still kind of cool tricks and stuff you can do to mitigate that a bit. But yeah, it's still not as much with any other weapon. All right, so if there's no other questions or comments, I might just pause recording and move on.